what JCETI is up to. I know you guys are in your 10th year, right?
The beautiful thing about our work with the 10 years is that we've been literally in lockstep. You know, most phenomenon and hotspots. You know, there are of course continually hotspots, but our the amazing thing about our work in Japan is that the ET activity has sort of been coherent or consistent with the actual our events in the area. So when we go to a new prefecture, not only does it stimulate the people who are there, and also it the contact then continues there for potential years. So yeah, we're kind of we've done events in almost every prefecture at this point. So what we're doing now is I've been talking to cameramen and friends of mine as about these kind of ideas as well, is that we're trying to go back to the highlight spots around the country and see what's happening there. Some of those which are really photogenic, which I think I showed Mark pictures of earlier, are the sand dunes and the backside, the Japan seaside, like sort of the Korean facing side of Japan there are some areas here that you wouldn't ever think were in Japan. So there's like sand dunes that are on the ocean, so they drop right into the beach. And we've had craft cruising around those, like the ground-like phenomenons in there. And also there's a prefecture way up in the north, like the whole Hokkaido area, that's sort of the Canada or Alaska of Japan here. So we have a lot of amazing wilderness up there. And that sort of has the Mount Adams of Japan. It's called Mount Iwaki. And so we've had ground light phenomenon there as well.
You founded JCETI. You know, what prompted you to do that? How did you open those doors?
Great question. Yeah, you know, it was in simple terms, totally like a soul contract. You know, this is my quote unquote, you know, starseed mission. This is my light worker mission. So it was very, how would you say? It was very serendipitous. Yeah, and then basically it was so organic for me. Basically, and then, you know, when it came to, I know that in 2009, the fall of 2009, a lot of light workers, I see this being spoken about in the ascension communities as well, where a call was put out, and really our program was sort of like a lead up to that 2011 Fukushima disaster. So that was between 2009 and March of 2011. That was our prep phase. I was moved back to Japan. I mean, it was so intense. You could make a movie just about that, a year and a half, 2 years, and it was so intense. But really the inspiration was the most intense thing. You know, I had amazing wind beneath my wings. So, you know, I just had this internal knowing that there was something big waiting for me. I even felt that in the first 5 years when I was in Japan here just teaching English. I knew that there was something I needed to do here that was a lot bigger. So I had a 5-year prep time to learn the language and get used to living here. And then when it first started, I was having my regular sightings. Even when I wasn't in the field, I was seeing craft everywhere. You know, and the CE5 protocols, of course, inspired me, because when I first got back from Mount Adams, I was thinking basically, oh, I'd love to go back there someday, you know, end of story. But then I discovered that my experiences matched with the protocols could be induced in other places. And then I realized, man, well, the first place I was living when I came into this world was Japan. So I'd really love to, I got to share this with the Japanese people. I had this strange inspiration that was part of my you know, inspiration in the beginning. So if we first started, I didn't know whether it was going to be just like a once a month kind of casual gathering or whatnot. But as things started to roll, I was meeting more and more lecturers, and one thing led to another, and I was invited to do my first book project with the kind of up and coming spiritual / conspiracy publisher there. So that, and then finally in the middle of that project, 3/11 hit, the Fukushima disaster hit. So it was like, you know, my entire story was basically after 3/11, this project went online, and you know, once you publish a book here, you start to become invited to different places, and so the CE5 Contact event was my thing. So the development of that with the start of my sort of lecture career, or was an organic rollout as a set.
Excellent. And how many
Yeah.
members? How many members do you have now throughout JCETI?
I say, yeah, we've had over 5,000 participants, and we've done about 500 events here. So it's been full time. So just to contrast, me going into that lecture scene and the spiritual scene was also a trial by fire, because what we were holding, the standard of energy and the standard of this consciousness that this contact brings was definitely new to people here. So that having to hold that light was very challenging at first. So we had a lot of people in the beginning. There were, of course, the people just there because it was new, and so I was slowly having to balance the kind of curiosity factor versus the serious, the serious people. So I went through an amazing training to be a group leader, and the sheer number of people in Japan itself, the population is quite large. So you're in front of quite a lot of people at any given gathering. So it was my public speaking practice through my English teaching years came in handy, and then of course my language skills went into overdrive. I was researching all the terms like military industrial complex and interdimensional and stealth and the name for all the craft. How do you talk about a plasma ship in Japanese? So that was all my mental facilities. My mental facilities were on overdrive as well. So it was I was adrenaline charged for the first few years there, big time. Obviously the big thing here is the background that while this Japan spiritual scene is very active, the quote unquote new age scene, they don't have any kind of disclosure or UFO research happening really. So we're kind of an island nation in an island nation. So the fact that when people come out to America with us, especially, ECETI has always had a lot of cutting edge speakers, and of course the phenomenon as a set like that, so they get blown away. I mean, it's seriously life changing, paradigm changing for them. So when and the other beautiful thing is, of course, we've had a lot of the people in each group have quite amazing connections. So it's really like, we had a cancellation last year where a guy couldn't come. He canceled on the day of their departure. So things like that. So people are either welcomed in or blocked from going there. There's a filter around Mount Adams who can go there. So I'm sure you've experienced things like that. And then, during the visit on these, we've had people, with amazing breakthroughs and transformations. It is the contact, and then how the contact affects their daily lives. It's a whole flow. Yeah, so I mean, but with the information impact of the information, meeting other people there, little bits of insight that are shared with other visitors. It's such a multi-dimensional experience. One guy last year participated in both Sedona and Mount Adams, and he had literally, his life is completely different now. I mean, it was intense for him. The energies in Sedona were very intense, so he was down. He went down for the count for the first 2 days. He was in bed. So he didn't so he was having a major detox. I mean, and then on the Mount Adams tour, he was it was a little more relaxed, but unfortunately his father passed like the second to last day of the tour. So when he got back, he was like in the midst of all this family stuff. So it was like, seriously life-changing with a capital L.
Quite often with CE5 events, there's healings that have happened. Have you experienced any of that side of it? Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, of course, that whole thing with Sedona I just mentioned was, of course, a healing, and all the stuff that doesn't match with this energy comes out first. So it's like you're almost like they squeeze, the energy squeezes you like a sponge, and anything that doesn't match those higher dimensional frequencies, it's an energy physics, you could say. So that it's a purge that happens. Yeah, and then the amazing back actually in our last 4 or 5 years, I've been really guided to get into that healing a lot more. So and during our CE5, we actually instead of doing a lot of quiet meditation time, our events have turned into really big time energy sessions. So I invite the guides in, and I do a protocol that for energy release, to people to release what they don't need, and then also to replace that with the highest light. So we've done a lot of kind of ascension downloads, and that is super palpable. So it's interesting. Like the guides are just standing by, no matter, as long as we ask them to do what we need them to do or would like them to do, they respond without any delay. It's amazing, and I'd say for the beginners out there, just being in the field is healing, because these ships, when they come in, they could be right over the group in a stealth mode, but no matter where they are or how close they are, or how far they are, you're getting bathed with that vibe, that energetic spectrum, which is just beyond words. And I found that to be the ultimate standard energetically. Once you get used to those ships, I find that I have people who've done Reiki and energy work for 20, 30 years, and they're blown away. They're like, I've never felt anything like this. So it is a whole nother dimensional. It's an entirely different dimension of contact. Of course, it often happens that they'll have a dip. They have like they might sleep very deeply that night, or they might get a little bit woozy while that energy comes in, and then they have an immediate rebound where the next day they're just like, oh my God, I've had stiff shoulders and muscle problems for years, and now I'm completely clear. I'm completely fine. It was an energetic thing. Yeah, so people experience things like that all the time.
And even within that core group, do you have like people who would be referred to as antennas or magnets, or people who could be possibly, contactees, people that seem to attract the phenomenon specifically that you actually prefer to have close to you when you do your CE5 events?
Normally, yeah, they've never had a forum for this in their area before, so they'll come to the screening or whatever, or the event, and they'll be the first thing is they'll be happy that they can have a place or people that they could share with. So some of them in the older generation have kind of been a little bit on the Adamski kilter, so that's sort of, they have a little bit of a bias in towards more of the physical phenomenon. But yeah, they can be quite knowledgeable. The other ones who I would say are total magnets are almost like children and younger people with they have no pre-programmed or preconceived notion about what's supposed to happen or what's going to happen. Normally, and then with our sort of core team, yeah, I mean, we have a handful of 4 or 5 locations that are, of course, the same staff or the same supporters are always there, and that's very helpful to have when I have a lot of people I don't know coming. Well, as I've raised my vibration, I think our entire event itself is kind of protected and shielded. So the types of turbulence that might have occurred in the beginning, we rarely experience anymore. But I know that I'm thinking about your work and what you've done with people around the world. I'm trying to think. The one thing I would say on the contrary, though, is that I really kind of let the group in total. I try and bring everyone up together. And if we had a person that would be a magnet that was recognized for the entire group, that might bring in sort of like a deference to that person that might not be, I'm trying to get everyone connected individually. So there can be a downside to that when you have 20, 30 people. It's part of the culture here. They always want to kind of cling on to the stronger person, the sort of alpha person. So I'm trying to get their juices flowing, and that could have a downside for me as the navigator at times. In my experience, I'm having people in the field, they're brand new to it, and they're discovering their abilities as the work progresses, or the day after. And I've had an amazing experience where even the most subtle phenomenon, I had a farmer couple in our home area who came out with us like 3 or 4 times, and on the 3rd time, it was just a casual outing an hour from our city. We didn't stay overnight at all, and literally this guy, he in front of us, he turned on, the husband he turned on and was seeing all those super subtle phenomena that usually I can only see, like the really quick flashes, and they play with him, and they were training him on the spot, and he's like, there, and then he's like, no, they're over there. Oh, just flash there, and the wife's like, honey, what are you talking about? What? And so literally right in front of our eyes, he kind of graduated into that, higher sight, that super sight. And that was an amazing experience. That was that proved to me as well that, because you're there at times talking to people in the field and saying, oh, well, you can see this and you can see that. And if they can't, it sounds unbelievable at times. So to have that happen right in front of us was a big inspiration.
Have you or any of your members had physical face-to-face connections with beings, or even holographic projections, interactions with beings at your CE5 meetings and stuff?
Yeah, totally. Yes. The holographic projection. I don't know if you saw the CE5 film, but my photo was in there from a place we often go to. It's the Colorado of Japan, called Toyama, and in that photo we had the picture of the people with the energy beams coming from their third eye and the heart chakra, and in the circle there was two beings that were photographed. They're kind of silhouettes. Yeah, I have another photo with me, and there's a face in the window behind me. And when we researched that with, oftentimes I would bring that stuff to ECETI, and James would, we would do during a table session, we would ask about it, and we found that was an Orion being in a contact suit. And so then you have people in other groups talking about a contact suit. So there's all this parallel information. He looked like Iron Man. He had a mask on. It was amazing. At that time, James is super sensitive. He said to me, this being was protecting you from some sort of interference. And there was a red stream. The being came in like there was an energy stream behind it in the window, at the back of the van. How would you say, close range contact of all sorts of size, of all shapes and sizes. I have night vision footage. One of the clips is so amazing. It's they come in a lot of times like a firefly, and the beings come in as a firefly. And we had a kids event with like 200 people in the field, and parents and children. And I said, okay, as we were ending, we had visual contact. I had a Gen 2 scope connected to a TV out in the field. We were live streaming the ships, and we caught craft and orbs on that. And then as we broke, I literally said, thank you. And as I said, thank you and good night, let's finish. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little light, this green light, zipped into the middle of the circle. And it was like, oh my God, this is just a cherry on top of a triple sundae here. So we've already had an amazing night. And now this is like, we're into we're into extra innings. This is like mind blowing. And everyone just like, whoa, my God, the kids gather around this green light. And so we've had that phenomenon appear along with the chirping. I call it the ET bird. When those lights come around, they'll make a sound. It's like a metallic, halfway between a bird chirp and an insect. We've had a lot of that come, and then they'll fly right around your head. We've also had objects fly through the circle at literally this 10 centimeter, 20 centimeter from the head. Like I was at we were at a site in Nagano Prefecture that has zero magnetic charge. It's like a sort of a strange anomaly in the ley line field, and this object, it was almost like a bird. It was some sort of white object with wings, flew at a really high rate of speed with nearly no sound right between the person next to me and our heads. So there's been a ton of close range contact like that.